Loved the sports and I loved doing all that stuff, but I really wanted to be around horses and rope, and it just wasn't available at the time. And it wasn't anybody's fault. It just where I was at in that time of my life. Like I remember going outside and roping the dummy till sneaking outside, and we had a porch light, and I'd rope a calf head till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And man, I'd get in trouble. My mom would get so mad. If you want something bad enough, you're going to stay up late enough and research it, and you're going to find out a way to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I'm sure that you use a network of people that you went to school with or grew up with, and building that network is probably one of the most important things business-wise that I would tell somebody, is build that network of people. When you can swallow your pride and embrace the grind, and I think that's part of being successful.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. Today we have somebody on that maybe you recognize from the steer roping world. I'd recognize his name from that when somebody suggested him. But Bryce Davis, he's also a business owner here in Abilene, very successful in the steer roping world. So we're going to get into all that. How's it going, Bryce?
Good. How are you?
Good. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you got into all this. Did you grow up right here in Abilene?
I didn't. I was actually born in Reeves County in Pecos.
Okay.
And my mom's family's from there. And when my parents got married, they moved to Pecos for, the time from before I was born to about the time I was 5. And so my mom's dad, my grandpa, Jimmy McNeil, he ranched and stuff. And they had a place there at Kinosa, kind of in the middle of absolute nowhere. And then we had a set of cattle pens at Presidio. And my great grandfather, Rounder McNeil, he came from Clint out by El Paso and kind of started developing that cattle business out there. And we traded cattle across the border. We would buy and sell. I say they would buy and sell cattle and, feeder calves and stuff and quarantine them and then ship them out. So that's kind of where my mom's side of the family came from. And so I was born there in Pecos. And then my dad rodeoed and roped steers forever, college rodeoed, and then, had a very successful career roping steers, and he roped calves and team roped and everything.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask, if he only steer roped or if he did the other.
No, he didn't. He made the college finals in the team roping, calf roping, and maybe, I don't think the bulldogging, but he went to the timed event one year, which was, when I was a kid, that was like, you want to win a gold buckle, but the timed event was, that was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So when I was 5, they moved to Bandera, and my parents divorced when I was about 7, and my dad moved to Abilene then, and my mom stayed in Bandera and remarried a guy named Enrique Urita, and he college rodeo too. He's a rough stock guy. So I grew up in Bandera through grade school and graduated there, but I was always in Abilene. My dad lived in Abilene, and every other weekend, for a month in the summer, I got to go with him. And so Abilene's always kind of been a second home, kind of been home for me, really. And so I finished grade school. We did all this normal stuff, played sports. I didn't really rope much growing up. Most people that have a dad that rodeos, from the second they're born, they're around it and they rope and junior rodeo. And I never really junior rodeoed when I was a kid. It seems
like you have the kids that go all in on it, or they're like have no interest because they're around it all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't know what makes that happen, but that seems to be the deal.
It does. And even now with kids homeschooling, and like my daughter, we homeschool our kids and she ropes, and it's just kind of what takes place now. But I grew up playing sports. I tried to play basketball and baseball and football and everything, and was probably not any good at it at all, but I did that for a good time. But I was pretty passionate about wanting to rope and wanting to be around horses. I always loved being around horses and loved riding and just the Western industry and cattle. So
out there at Pecos, like before you moved, I guess you were really young then, but that was like you were on a ranch, right? And around that all the time.
Yes, sir. So we had the place at Kinosa. I think it was 50 sections. And we had an older guy named Nicholas that lived out there that and we had I think the receiving pens and stuff where they processed the cattle and dehorned and did all that stuff was there. But best I recall, we had some farms west of Pecos, kind of on the north side of the interstate, and we lived there, and we had an arena in the backyard. I was 5. It was.
But you're more around it then.
I was around it.
Bandera,
yes.
kind of moved to town a little bit maybe, or did y'all?
We did. We lived kind of on the outskirts of Bandera, and when my dad was there in Bandera, I was around roping a lot. I mean, we had arena in the backyard. Bobby Harris, T Woman, JD Yates, like those guys were coming by all the time and just roping with dad because they were all the same age. And, you know, my dad lived with Dick and Jan Yates all through college, and him and Dick are still, they talk every week to this day. So I was around guys like that, and I would rope the dummy and play with the rope. And I always loved being around it. And when that kind of happened and my dad moved to Abilene, I wasn't really around. We lived in town. And, you know, right on the outskirts of town, had a few, you know, a couple acres, and we stock showed and stuff. And, but I just didn't have horses, and it wasn't something that I was exposed to daily. And it was almost a blessing because I was able to do the sports and do the stuff that you only get to do as a kid that you might not get to experience. You know, you can rope the rest of your life. That's what I tell my kids. And I was able to play baseball and do team sports and build those relationships and that mindset. And I think it's helped me later on in roping. Yeah. But,
that's how I was too. Like I quit playing. I was big into sports because my brother was mainly, but when I was younger, and then going into high school, I quit sports and only focused on roping because that was my mindset, was like, I can do this the rest of my life. And it has a way more probability of being a career than I know in football. Like, very small chance I could go to a junior college, or maybe, you know, I was not going to be a huge star. So I was like, I know this has no future, but I could rope forever. Real quick, if you're a listener of this show and you're serious about leveling up your income, your mindset, and your life in 2026, you need to join the Wealthy Cowboy VIP community. It's where the real action happens. You'll get exclusive discounts from our sponsors, VIP merch deals, early access to episodes, private Q&As, and I even pull questions from the group to ask our guests on the show. It's a crew of driven Western people pushing each other to grow. The link is in the description. Go join now and see what's happening inside.
Yeah. And I wanted to rope. I mean, it was similar to that. I loved the sports and I loved doing all that stuff, but I really wanted to be around horses and rope, and it just wasn't available at the time. And it wasn't anybody's fault. It just where I was at in that time of my life. And I remember when I really started roping probably my junior year in high school. Like I remember going outside and roping the dummy till sneaking outside, and we had a porch light, and I'd rope a calf head till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And man, I'd get in trouble. My mom would get so mad. But I had a really, really good friend. And my stepdad and Ricky, he was super positive, and he's always been very supportive. My mom was too. If that's what I wanted to do, they would support me. We didn't have an arena, and you know, he rode bulls and stuff, and it wasn't really his forte. But one of my best friends, Clint Singleton, he lived there in Medina, 10 miles down the road, and his dad, John, they had an arena there, and we went to school together. And there were some other people like Clint Rainey and Nikki and Cody Gordon and some people that roped around there. So I got to go into Clint's house, and then there's a guy named J. Paul Williams that was rodeo with my dad that made the finals several times and roped calves and trip steers really good. And he gave me a horse when I was probably a junior in high school, a bay horse, and let me rope calves on him. And that was my first horse. And probably without him, I wouldn't have had it, that soon. But I got to go rope with Clint, and man, they let me come rope calves, and I'd bring feed and try to help and, do anything I could. And there were some guys like Terry Hellmans and some guys around there that roped that, having a dad like I did was such an advantage because I had access to so many more people, and I was very blessed in that way. And, I could call people and, go rope, and I didn't know anything, I didn't know how to tie.
But you wanted it.
But I wanted to.
Yeah.
I wanted to more than anything in the world. So my senior year in high school, I quit all the sports and I focused on roping, and I just kind of became obsessed with it. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do. I knew that was where I wanted to try to have success and where I wanted to go with it. So I did that, and I got to high school rodeo my junior and senior, part of my junior year and my senior year. And then, graduation night, my mom, she still probably wants to kill me for this, but I wanted to be in Abilene just because I knew if I was going to succeed and do the roping stuff, that's where I needed to be. And
Bandera, they call Bandera Cowboy Capital of the World. But why? But why is that?
They were great world champions there, calf ropers.
Kind of back in the day.
Back in the day, the 60s and through that, there were tons of great champions, but San Antonio's too close, and it's just grown up and dude ranches. And I'll be honest with you, that ground's so rocky. Finding a spot flat enough, and you don't have to pick rocks for 2 years to get where you can rope in it. And there's still a lot of guys that rope down there, and it's beautiful country, and I loved every minute I was down there. But I knew that my dad, having the knowledge that he had, that's where I needed to be if I was going to have a chance. And so I moved up here. Graduation night, I went to graduation night with my horse in the trailer, and I had some square bales in the back of my 82 Ford. And we walked across the stage. We went to the Mexican food place in town, and I gave my mom a hug, and I left. I drove to Abilene that night. And
any plans of college or anything? Or?
So I did, yeah. So I did. My dad wanted me to go to ACU. He loved the school and wanted me to be right here. So I compromised. I went to CJC, Cisco Junior College. They had an Abilene campus, and I rodeoed with them. I got a small partial scholarship. I was so green. I hadn't won anything, and nobody knew who I was or cared. So when I moved to Abilene, I took all my basic courses at Cisco Junior College, and they had a branch here in Abilene, right here on the north side, and I roped twice a day. I would get up before school and rope. If we had break at lunch, we would rope. I mean, I had opportunity. If I was willing to get my butt out of bed and saddle the horses and do it, I had opportunity. And that's kind of why I came. I mean, I just wanted to be around it. So
was that calf roping and team roping then?
Calf roping and team roping and bull logging. Yep. Okay. And I was tying a few steers down by then. You couldn't not try to tie a steer down. Yeah. But honestly, my love was calf roping. I mean, I was probably terrible at it, but gosh dang, there's nothing better than riding a good calf horse and making a good run. Just like in the bull logging, when you make one hit, it makes you think you can do it every time, and then it might be a month before it happens again. But
yeah, I don't know why but calf roping has always been my favorite. Like that's the only one that I really have interest in. I've team roped, and there's way more money in the team roping.
Oh, tons.
And then I bulldogged in high school, but I never loved any of it like the calf roping.
Yeah.
And I'm left-handed, so the steer tripping wasn't really an option, but everybody that steer trips, they're like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's the horse deal to me. I mean, I loved roping calves, but I loved riding a good calf horse or a good steer horse more than anything in the world. And it's probably a detriment when I rodeo, because I'm probably thinking more about the horse than I am about going fast sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I love the process of starting one and seeing it through to the end, and just the whole process of a good horse. I mean, nothing's more fulfilling besides your family and your life than riding a good horse to me. Mm-hmm. But so I moved to Abilene. I took my basics at CJC, and I really, really had a lot of growth in my rope, and I got to where I could catch consistently. And then I went to Tarleton State University, and I got my bachelor's and my master's there in 04 and 05 in education. And I had some really influential people in my life at that time that steered me that direction. The Edelman family, Ronald, we went to his funeral this last weekend. He was the ag teacher at Newcastle for a long time. He roped, and his son, Don Ed. I worked for him in the summers, starting 2-year-olds there for 2 summers in Graham. Or I actually lived at Pageant at their little place, but I stayed with Ronald there in Graham on the lake. And so he kind of pushed me towards the education side, and they were pretty influential, helping me find my first place to stay there. And Don Ed rope calves great, and he was kind of a winner, and he's one of those guys that was super positive, but also held you accountable, and had a lot of structure that I probably needed at that time. And I was very fortunate to have people come along in my life at certain times in my life that helped me with business, with rodeo, with any, different things in life. And he was very influential. So I went to Tarleton, and Ronald used to tell me, he said, you get a teaching degree. He said, you can rodeo in the summer. And so I got an education degree and student taught at Cross Plains under Roy Ritchie and did all that. But when I was at school, another person that was very influential in my life that helped me tremendously, it was Troy Brown. Troy and Daisha Brown. They live right there at Huckabee on the north side of Stephenville. And I worked for Troy all through college. And he was the guy
building fence or something.
Building fence, yeah. So
yeah. He was one of the names when I went there. Like I was looking for some work, and he was like, he was one of the names as a fence builder or something. You know, you could always go get a job doing grunt work or something.
You could. I was a grunt guy. I was world champion grunter, and I liked it too.
Yeah.
But he and it was just a timing deal. You know, he was roping steers and really wanting to be around it more, and I roped steers. And when I came to work for him, it was me and Troy and maybe 2 or 3 other guys, and we were just building pasture fence. And then he got into a whole nother deal with the Barnett Shell and the oil field stuff and the roustabout companies, and we built shakers and cattle guards and entrances and temporary fence. And so when I got there, I didn't know how to weld, or you know, I could run. We didn't have a welder at the house hardly, and I could run a cutting torch a little bit, but he stuck me with an older guy named Roger Frederick and for a year and made me fit pipe and run a torch. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because a good fitter is worth twice what a welder is, I think. But that's where I got my first taste of construction and metal and welding and cutting and fitting and work ethic. I mean, if work started at 6:45, 5:45 was on time. You know, 15 minutes early is when you started. And he was strict, but he was a great guy, and he taught me work ethic. He taught me to do what you say you're going to do and to stay till it's finished, and all the things in life that kids need to learn to be successful, and no matter what they do. So I worked for Troy all through college and graduated and tried to rope. And I realized that when I was going to college, I worked a lot and I roped as much as I could, but I realized I wasn't there, and I wasn't a very good horseman, and I didn't ride very good. And so when I finished college, I moved back home, and another man came into my life. His name was Bubba Wilson. And Bubba was married to Georgia Welch, which was Buster Welch's daughter, and him and Tom Merriman worked for Mr. Welch for a number of years. I don't know, 10 years or so. And Bubba was very influential in my life. He had moved to Abilene, and him and my dad roped together. He healed, and he was a great horseman. And I went to work with him, and I would lope horses for him, and we would day work. And there for a good year and a half, all I did was just day trash. And I would pick him up, and we would get to go to Moran and work for, you know, Morris D and Sammy Snyder, and go to Albany and work for Robert and Ross Montgomery. And I mean, some great places stuff that I'd have never got to do if he wouldn't have come around, you know. And but Bubba taught me how much I didn't know about a horse and how well I didn't ride. And we got to start, you know, 4 or 5 horses, and I had a group of about 4 3-year-olds, 2 and 3-year-olds. And, you know, one of them I won the average at the finals on. Another one was a great calf horse I had. The roan horse I made the finals on one year and sold him to Roger Branch, and he made them. And like all those horses got used a lot outside and had a lot of miles on them. And I learned so much from him and from those horses and the time he spent with me. But it seemed like at that point, my horsemanship had changed, and I don't know, it was a big changing point in my career as far as roping. But at that same time, I had to figure out what I was going to do. So, you know, with a master's degree, I think a teacher at the time made $27,000 a year. And I don't know if you know what aluminum trailers and Ford pickups cost these days, but you can't buy that stuff.
The time off sounds good, but the salary doesn't sound too good.
It doesn't. And it's a shame too, because it's probably one of the most important jobs that we have. And, you know, it just doesn't pay enough to keep the people that we should have there. So my hat's off to all the teachers that do it, because it's a thankless job. And my wife taught school for a long time, and it's a thankless job, and we need more good teachers out there. But so I'd worked for Troy all through college and welded, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I had a couple friends, Sean Woods, that was down here. He went to Ohio State and then got his master's at A&M. And he was roping calves and hanging out in Clyde, and we were really good friends. And Ryan Bowden, that I went to college with, he was roping. He was from Graham. And we just kind of started doing some little odd end jobs. I built an entrance and borrowed a welding machine the first 6 months, and I paid the guy for every hour I put on it, $10 an hour, until I saved up enough money to buy my first welding machine. And I think the first metal building that we built was for Ron Lane, and right there in Oppland. And he said, "Can you build a metal building?" I said, "Well, I never have, but I can weld." And he said, "Well, go up there to Metal Mart." And he said, "I'll buy all the material and I'll pay you this much an hour." And he said, "Just take your time and they'll tell you how it goes together and learn how to do it." And, that was kind of where the Davis Steel Builders and the metal buildings and stuff kicked off, was somebody giving me a chance, and sometimes that's all you need is when you want to, you just need somebody to give you a chance and
just get into it and then figure it out.
Yeah. And it's just necessity. If you want something bad enough, you're going to stay up late enough and research it, and you're going to find out a way to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So, we started building some lean-tos, and then it turned into a shop. And, the first couple of years we built a lot of pasture fence and entrances and cattle guards. And I would go mow your lawn if you wanted me to.
Yeah.
But
anything to keep from getting a real job.
Anything. And that's one thing Ronald told me when I was in college. He said, "You'll never make any real life-changing money working for somebody else. If you're driven and if you're built that way, to hustle and to do that type of stuff." So I don't know if I could ever really go work for somebody. I don't think my clock is the same as a lot of people's. And so I don't know. I was way more aggressive when I was younger, but like working was not, I loved to work. It was fun. And if I wasn't working, I thought I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But we started that business just kind of on the side, just doing. And then I met my wife. I met her at Stephenville too. And she breakawayed and roped and grew up. She grew up in a ranching community. She was born on a lake in Big Lake. On a ranch in Big Lake, Texas, and they're outside of San Angelo. And her dad worked for Ellis and Carter for a good many years. So when she was a kid, I think her and Nathan were really good friends, and they'd get dropped off at the school bus there at the pens and hang out there, And so she was always around horses, and that's kind of where, our bond started was through horses, and it's still is there today. We still ride every day together. She team ropes now, and she'll mess with a barrel horse every once in a while. But it seems like we do everything together. We rope together. We have businesses together, and it's just a great thing that when you can have somebody that you're in love with, and that you share the same interest with, and you have the same common goals. You want to get to the same spot. And when we got married in 2007, I started doing the buildings, and she was teaching school, and we were getting by, and it just grew, the buildings deal. For 8 years it was me, and I had a one-eyed Indian named Daniel that worked for me 10.5 years, and he passed away. He had a heart attack, but he was a great human. And it was two of us and a Branson tractor with a stinger pole and 2 ladders, and my wife would come help, or my dad would come help me set trusses one day. And, it just grew, and I don't know how it grew. It took a long time. It wasn't overnight. It was, 8 years of grinding. And then, you're able to save up enough money to buy a telehandler. Well, then it gets a little faster, and then you need another guy. And it just seemed like it gradually, year after year, just grew, and the projects got a little bit bigger. And so we grew the business together. And then, we still do the steel stuff. It's been 21 or 2 years now.
DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it's definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need for farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they have something for you. And it's going to be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and helpful. We just got new custom flatbeds built for our pickups, and I also got probably the coolest trailer you've ever seen built. And you can stay tuned for a video we're going to do, and it's going to show all of that and some more of their products also. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com. And it seems like a welder can stay busy at any point. I mean, like anybody I know that is builds fence or puts up metal buildings or something like that, like it seems like they're always behind.
They are. And if you'll answer your phone and show up, it's the world's yours.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is.
What I've seen at home is like there's a bunch of those guys at home, and like they're all busy, and anybody you call pretty much. But somebody will some people will tell you no, and then some guys will take the job and they'll just do enough to get the job. They'll come work for a day or bring the equipment or something like that, and then go do something else for a week and come just enough so you stay hooked.
I hate that. But so we started doing the metal buildings, and then that grew into, we started doing some barndominiums, and now it's kind of its own monster. Now I have great contacts. I have a great guy named Brooks Wolf that helps me with all my interior stuff on the small barn doors. He does all the framing, sheetrock, tile. I've used the same concrete guys for Randy Moreno out of Breckenridge and Adolfo. I've used Randy for since I started, 21, 22 years, and have a great relationship with him. And so the construction deal kind of became its own thing. And it grew and it allowed me to do things financially with horses and to grow and to buy our first place. That was the dream of owning a house and land. I mean, that was something that was important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so my wife was still teaching school, and it finally got big enough that my wife decided she was going to open her own private school. So we had a private school in Abilene for 3 years. My wife did, called the Leap Learning Center. And it was mostly just to get our kids, out of public school. We just thought that there was a better way to learn. Critical thinking skills weren't being taught.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't huge fans of the STAR test.
I think that's it. And that's so cool. I didn't know that, because I say that too. Like you were talking about teaching earlier, and there's no money in it. But if a teacher has that skill set and has a little entrepreneur spirit, I think there's a huge demand to go start. You can start your own deal. You could be a private, the right people, like a guy I listen to that has a big company. He just hired a really good teacher from the school his kids went to, and she homeschools their kids. Yep. And he said pays like double what she was making, kind of deal. So, but that's a huge opportunity, and it's cool. And I agree with all that. I mean, and it's something I think a lot of people are starting to look at that, like our education system, and kind of seeing the gaps there. I guess critical thinking is a big one. Like
it's huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge. And kids learn differently. I mean, my daughter she's smart as a whip, and she reads at a very high level, and has since she was little. She enjoys reading. I mean, my wife runs to town Saturday to grab groceries. Lily goes with her. She reads a chapter on the way to town. I mean, she's just built different. I tell people I don't do the 2 R's. I don't read and I don't run. So like if I'm running, you better hurry because something's after me. But my boy, he's very, very, very smart in, math in certain areas, but reading he struggles with. And so, those kids need different tools and different ways to learn. And so my wife started that school, and then about the time the school started and we got it going, we had an opportunity to buy the lumberyard, City Lumber, here in Abilene, just north of where we're at right now on 1310 Walnut.
Did y'all do business there a lot or something?
I did, yes. I've everything I do wood-wise before was with them, and I believe they're the oldest lumberyard in Abilene. Been here since the 40s, and still the same building, same location. the Faircloth family owned it. And so Mr. Faircloth passed away in his early to mid 90s, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And his two of his three boys, Audie and Scotty, took over, and they were 68, 69. And I've always done business with them. And it's just it's your local family, small town lumberyard. You walk in, you shake somebody's hand right there. You know, service is fast and great. You're not going into a big retail store. It's very personal. And so when we had an opportunity, it actually was a strange deal. My daughter played junior high basketball, and Audie's one of the son's owners, his daughter, Audie's daughter, Wendy, the Gringrosses, we're all friends. And she was a school teacher, and they have a daughter that's the same age as my daughter. So we were actually playing Eula in a basketball game. And I went over there and was talking to Audie at the basketball game. And he was telling me that, you know, he's been there since he was 12 years old, and he's 69. And they were at the point to where they wanted to go travel. You know, they wanted to go see things and just kind of get away. He had put his time in and done a ton up there, and none of the kids really wanted to be in that industry. You know, there wasn't a successor, somebody to pass it on to for a third generation. And we were just talking, just normal. I had no intentions of being in the lumber business, no intentions of anything in that realm. And he just said, you know, he said, I think we're just going to sell everything and maybe sell the lot to Hardin Simmons, you know, or one of the colleges, or the hospitals right there, and just shut it down. And I got to thinking, I was like, man, I hate to see that business go away. Something that's so iconic for the city of Abilene. So I just asked him, just from the hip, I said, man, would you sell it? And he goes, to who? And I was like, to me and my wife. Would you consider selling it? And he goes, let me think about it. And he said, I might. And the next week they played us. So it was kind of a back-to-back. And we set up in the stands that second game and literally shook on it. And so in 30 days afterwards, we owned a lumberyard. And I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened, but God does things in your life to push you the right direction. And that's probably what it was.
And you never planned on buying a business like that or anything like that?
Knew zero about retail, and crash course, man. Crash course. So my wife shut the school down. She runs the lumberyard, which I wish she could have been here today, because she's the brains of the operation. I hit stuff with a hammer, and she figures, she does QuickBooks and billing and tax. She does all that stuff. She's awesome.
Yeah.
But so she kind of took it head on and was pretty passionate about it. And she was up there and worked her butt off and, you know, learned the supply lines and the retail side and the marketing and just everything. You know, when we took that lumberyard over, they had two landlines, no internet. They had an accounting system on a old computer, which was great. Everything was handwritten tickets, hand inventory. And it's the way they'd done business, and it was awesome. It worked great for them. So Katie came in and kind of modernized it. We brought in a point of sale system. We have Wi-Fi now. It's amazing. And so, you know, new computers, new register, you know, just kind of changed, modernized everything. And we have a detailed inventory now where you can scan items, and, you know, it's still the same old store. You know, the Coke machine from the 40s that still works is still there, and it's still the old store. We just gave it a little bit of an update. But yeah, it's been really neat. We were able to buy a lumber dump, and, you know, start to do a little bit bigger projects. And we built a storage facility, like a 24 by 120 on the north side, the lot they weren't using, and kind of utilized it. And it's been really good. The first year was kind of tough because, you know, when you have new ownership, you lose some of the old heads that, you know, were used to going in there and talking to Audie, but a lot of them stayed. The majority of them stayed, and you know, Darren Pachenko has helped us a lot with the media side and getting the word out and starting to use social media. You know, I'm old school. I'm a Facebook guy. and I don't do Instagram, TikTok.
I still love Facebook. Facebook's my favorite.
I do, and I do. It's all I have. And I think if I had anything else, I don't think I'd get anything done during the day. I don't need to be on my phone any more than I am. But Darren was awesome and helped us create a footprint in the social media network. And him and my wife have worked together. We've done some short videos. We also did some advertising in town, and we grew our gross on this. We took over March 1st. So this March was 2 years, and we grew our gross substantially from the first year, which was awesome. Our margin went down slightly, but we increased our gross by quite a bit. And it's kind of a neat business because we're in an area, an old part of town where you don't get a ton of road traffic. You kind of have to know we're there. And so we have to think differently outside the box. We have to utilize social media and media avenues that a lot of people that have great storefronts on main highways don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been good. We have a great manager, Caleb Ames. He's actually Brooks that works for me. It's his son-in-law, and he's our manager. And then we have John and Justin. They're great guys in the store. And then my wife runs the books, and I try to stay away because I handle most of the construction side, and we do the barn doors, and we're fixing to put up an indoor arena in San Angelo for the West Texas Boys Ranch, and the metal buildings and the general contracting stuff is kind of what my daily schedule entails. Mm-hmm. And then Katie runs the business side of it and runs the lumberyard. So, and she's a full-time mom on top of that.
Yeah.
She never misses a baseball practice. She never misses so there's a local, when we quit the school, the Leap Learning Center, there was a Randy and his wife, Randy White. They started a homeschool co-op called XDOT, and they're actually right across the street from where we're filming. They lease a building and have school there. So our kids go to XDOT. They go Tuesday and Thursday for half a day, and then we homeschool our kids through XDOT, and they can play sports. They can do, they have volleyball, basketball, baseball, all the sports you want to do through the homeschool co-op. And it's a great deal. My wife and stuff and I are on the board. So she's full-time mom. She does XDOT school board meetings. I mean, she does everything. I mean, it's amazing when you have a woman like that in your life, what they can handle.
Yeah. Pushes you to go do more.
Oh man. It makes you feel like an ant on the floor, and you try to help and you almost get in their way. You almost get in their way, but she's amazing, and she's the engine that kind of runs everything that we do. Without her, this doesn't work. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work at all. But that's kind of where we're at now. As far as the kids and the businesses, we have one thing that we did do when we bought the lumberyard. We started an LLC with City Lumber, and then we started a real estate company too. It's called B&K Lumber and Land Holdings, and they own the property. So we separated the property from the retail side. So the retail side, City Lumber leases the property from B&K Lumber and Land Holdings. So we have that property there, and then we have a piece of property on Highway 83 right across from the new school in Tuscola that we plan on the next probably 2 years to develop like a retail space, like a shopping space. Mm-hmm. So that's I've learned that in construction, you can only hit stuff with a hammer so long. So having some passive income is something that the last year or two I've kind of tried to focus on and try to lean on it a little bit more. So we're trying to develop some avenues of income passively that will sustain us after we're too old to do construction and whatnot. So
yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people just never think about, is like, now there's statistics and stuff out, like most people don't have enough in retirement. They've just been putting it in a retirement account and not thinking about it or anything like that. But at some point, especially like in a cowboy world or construct, like anything that's physical, you're not going to be able to do it forever. And like, that's kind of what got me to think, is like, I've got to figure out some other way to make money or make money grow or something, or I'm going to be forced to work when I'm old instead of like wanting to work, or what if something happens to me and I can't work, and then there's no income, and then I have all these mouths to feed or something, people to take care of. And thinking about that is like the first step, and then you can start finding these different avenues that you can take. Still driving to check your water? Is the summertime heat hitting hard? When drought conditions set in, managing a reliable water supply for your cattle can become a full-time job. In fact, if you are like most ranchers, you're probably checking water that 95% of the time doesn't need attention. RanchBot makes water monitoring easy with near real-time alerts, reducing unnecessary trips by collecting data directly from your water sources and giving you peace of mind in even the toughest conditions. With easy installation, reliable satellite connectivity, and lifetime support from the RanchBot team, this low-maintenance water monitoring solution is a valuable addition to any operation. Join over 12,000 ranchers already managing water more efficiently and making life on the ranch easier with RanchBot. Take control of your water and start saving time and money today by visiting ranchbot.com/Wealthy Cowboy or give them a call at 512-706-9084. I'll also be giving away some RanchBot trough monitors in the Wealthy Cowboy VIP group, so check that out as well.
You always want to go back and say, man, if I knew what I knew now when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I had a professor, Dr. Kyle McGregor, and they, when we were finishing at Tarleton, they send you through a course and talk about Roth IRAs and 401ks and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there wanting to go rope, I'm counting the minutes down till this class is over so I can go run a penny calves. And man, if I'd have just put $10 a month in that thing, we would own the building over there instead of sitting in here talking about it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that.
That's what I had Michael Hull from here in Abilene Cedar Gap Wealth Management and Clayton Hass on, and Clayton was talking about, like, he never thought about it either. And he's like, Michael told me, he's like, if you just save, invest 10% of what you make, or, in his case, what you win rodeo. And he's like, I won like $2 million. That'd be 200,000 over my whole career. He said, no, that would be a retirement, a pretty good retirement account.
Yeah, you're done. Yeah, it's my dad sold real estate too. Towards the end of his rodeo career, he got his real estate license, and he sells farm and ranch real estate. Doesn't do any residential really, but he's great with people, and that was something that that kind of fit his mold, and he's very good at what he does. And one thing that he helped me with was we've invested. I didn't do a lot of stock market type stuff. I do now. But most of the stuff that we did investing growing up was through real estate. So when we first got married, this is another thing. You don't realize how important the woman you marry is in your life until later on. But if you get the right one, it's amazing what y'all can do together. When I got married, one of the first things my wife told me, she goes, I don't care what we do, we're not renting. And that was something that was very important to her. She goes, we're not going to pay somebody else just to do it. She goes, we're going to build some equity in something. So we were able to grow what little wealth we had. When we got married, we probably had $500 between the two of us. And we bought our first place and built the house ourselves and lived in it for 2 years, and then we'd sell it. Then we would buy another little place, and in between the 6 or 8 months it took us to build, we'd live in our horse trailer. And we did that 3 or 4 times. And the time we did our 4th place, we paid cash for our last place. And being able to build that wealth through real estate and through sweat equity, I mean, our time, we sacrificed a lot of time in the evenings before we had kids working, and she'd be out there helping me dig holes or set purlins or driving a tractor or running a piece of equipment, she's 5'2", 100 pounds. I mean, you would not think that a woman could do the things she could do, but that sacrifice early in our life, in our married life, when we were young and we were energetic and we had the whole world was in front of us, and, our clocks didn't stop, we weren't tired all the time. And having that early and building that early, helped us so much later on in our lives, you know. And there was a part of our story there when I finished graduate school and we got married. I worked as an insurance adjuster too. So I worked claims for 10 years and I welded too. It kind of helped supplement each other. And I had some great people that, you know, if I had a fencing job and I had to go work a storm for 3 weeks, they would wait on me. It was awesome. But Clint Singleton, the same guy I went to school with that helped me so much. He was an adjuster. And when I finished graduate school, before I met my wife, I went to, it was in 05 or 06 when, what's the hurricane that hit Louisiana? Katrina. Yeah, we went to Katrina and Clint, I was at the roping fiesta in San Angelo and I roped and probably didn't win anything. And he said, man, what are you doing? I said, I don't know. I'm just, you know, I'm working and day working and doing this and that. He's like, why don't you get your butt down here and come work some claims? You can ride with me. I'll help you get in. So I had a laptop computer from college and I drove with what little money I had in my horse trailer to Gonzales, Louisiana, I think is where we went. And I rode with Clint and he would feed me lunch and help me out and got me started and taught me how to, you know, measure roofs and write estimates. And then I stayed there probably 3 weeks just training and not making a penny. You know, it was just on a whim. And he got me in with somebody in Florida when Sandy hit. And, you know, Blake Duncan and some of those guys in Angelo that had a claim service. And I went to work for them and kind of got my feet wet. And then after that, we went to work for Jeff Snyder, one of my close friends at Ropes. He was with Pilot. And Curtis Pilot was the owner. And our home office was in Mobile, Alabama. And we worked for Pilot for probably 9 years. And Katie and I worked together as a team. You know, I would scope, she would write there at the end. I worked initially by myself, and then after I got married, she worked with me. And it was a great way to go work a short period of time and kill yourself and get a chunk of money that you could go back and invest. And one thing that I'm very proud that we did was we would go work a storm for a month or two and make a certain amount of money. And then instead of going home and waiting for the next storm, I would go home and I would hustle jobs and she would help. And like, we tried to keep it rolling and not just sit on it and think, man, we just made $10,000.
Not just go home and spend it all.
Yeah. Let's go buy a new truck. You know, she's always been the super conservative one. You know, she doesn't want to spend, she wants to build wealth. And, but that was great. And we did that until my daughter was born. And, we tried it. Lily's 14. So I think the last storm we worked was on Long Island, New York. And we were working farm and ranch policies actually up there. And we were up there just a little over a month. And my daughter was about 6 months old and she was colicky and I don't think that girl slept more than 2 hours the first year she was alive. I mean, it was, you almost want to put a pillow over her for a second. Like, I love her to death now and she's a great kid, but holy cow, she about killed both of us, especially my wife. So I remember when we left New York, we were somewhere in Tennessee and like Lily was crying and, you know, my wife's in tears pretty much, you know, just the stress of everything we had done plus the kid. And we just pulled over and we had a talk and she said, I'm done. And it was one of those moments in life. It kind of gives you the chills thinking about it, but like, she says, I'm done. And I just told her, I said, if you're done, I'm done. And I called Joe Hamby, which was my manager, the great guy. He taught me everything about the insurance business that I knew. And I just called Joe and I said, man, Joe, I appreciate everything you've done for us, but you know, I think we're going to do something different. And going from having a pretty steady income stream and, you know, welding and trying to build the welding business and it not being guaranteed to just shutting the valve off. Wow. You talk about a leap of faith. I didn't know what we were going to do, but,
I'm sure the welding and all that picked up after though.
It did because I was around.
Focused on it.
Yeah. I was around and I was focused and I hustled and the energy that we expanded doing the other, it got channeled to hustling the construction side. And I mean, God has a plan on all that stuff. You know, there was a reason, you know, all that happened and we pulled over and had that talk and it's been great. Now I have a son that's 8 and he's baseball all the way. And my daughter's 14 now and she ropes and we're fixing to go to Gonzales to the junior high finals so she can team rope and breakaway. And, you know, But one thing I will tell you, like, I don't know how much I learned in college, but the one thing I did learn was networking.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imagine the people that I do business with that I went to school with. I mean, great guys like Eric Whipple that are in the electrical industry. I wired an arena for Camp Able, for Cody Cox and them, got the fans and all the electrical stuff from him. Called people that I know,
Mm-hmm.
that I have relationships with. And I think a person gets more from college that way than he does out of the book. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm sure that you use a network of people that you went to school with or grew up with, and building that network is probably one of the most important things business wise that I would tell somebody is build that network of people.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's exactly. I grew up rodeo, and so people that have been on here, people I do business with, people still friends with today were from junior rodeo and high school, college rodeo, and then going to college and just meeting all those people. And that's my biggest network. And that's what I went to school for animal production, which, I mean, I run some cows and stuff, but I don't know that I really need to go to college for it. So I do tell people that. And I think some parents probably get mad at me for that. I'm like, especially with the way technology and all the way the world is now, I'm like, you don't need to go to college, but if you do, like, be intentional with your relationships and getting to know people. Like, It's not necessarily, unless you're going for something specific, it's not necessarily, the degree you're going to get, which that's the reason I went, is because I wanted the college rodeo. So, I really never had anything in mind besides that anyway. So, but yeah, the relationships is huge, and still just out in the world, the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And if you can build those relationships, whether you go to college or not, but just like be intentional about that and going and meeting new people.
Yeah. Being intentional, being present when you talk to somebody, people are on their phones all the time, and I'm as bad as anybody, but just being present, in life, I think is important too. But yeah, the relationships I built in college, they'll last forever. I mean, those are people that I still talk to every month, and they may live in South Dakota or Ohio or East Texas or here in Abilene, but you run into those people and it's like you never stop talking to them.
Yeah.
And that's what's so amazing. And the Western industry is that way. I mean, it's a small world. And the older I've gotten, the more I've realized how small this world is. When you meet people and they know somebody that knows you, and everything I do business wise, I don't advertise a ton for the steel company. It's everything we do is word of mouth. And I tell my guys to stay an extra 2 hours and, do a great job on the trim work and clean up and finish, because we're only as good as the last job we do. I said, if we do a great job, they may tell 10 people. If we do a bad job, they're going to tell 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you're literally only as good as the last job you do. But yeah, I've been very blessed. I've had a group of guys, Jason Merchant, David Rodriguez, and some of those guys on the crew that have been with me 10 years. And, Brooks has helped me for 10 years now. And it's having the right people in place is so important, because they're an extension of you. So like when we first started building buildings, it was me and one guy, and my dad or my wife, or, one of my best friends, Rio Losi, lived down here 4 years and roped with me. And he helped me too while he was down here rodeoing. And, I'd have guys come in rodeoing that would help me, but I was kind of stuck in a block of growth when it was just me. And, I thought that I had to screw every screw and do every weld and hold the level every time. And, when I realized that I needed to find the right people for these jobs, and I needed to focus on what I could do best to grow that business, which was the sales, and which was the meeting the customers and making sure materials and concrete was poured, and the management side of it. When I got the right guys that could trim, that could weld, that could, do those other things, until I did that, I didn't experience the growth. But once that happened, the growth was just exponential. I mean, it was crazy how it blew up from year 1 to year 8. We were pretty stagnant in the same block of financial income,
Mm-hmm.
And then when we grew, and I learned to put the right people in the right spots around me, that's when I was able to have growth. And I think that's very important. I'm not a huge business guy. I don't know much about it. I don't know the terminology, but I do know that when you have the right people in the right spots and you trust them, that's the only time I experienced growth beyond having a paycheck. That's when I got out of the month to month, making a salary,
Mm-hmm.
to being able to grow and then being able to have finances to do different things like a lumber yard or like real estate and other things like that. But I don't know if you've experienced much of that stuff too.
Yeah, it's something I've studied a whole lot. I haven't had a lot of experience because everything I do is kind of me. I haven't had to deal with a lot of employees, but that seems to be everybody's answer is people and management and leadership and being able to let go, is like, no, I do better. And it seems to me like that's what I was going to ask you. I'm sure it wasn't just easy. You're like, okay, I need to put somebody here and then I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I'm sure it was like people have to make mistakes. You have to allow people to make mistakes. I mean, I see that a lot with raising kids. It seems to have, crossover there is like, you got to let them go do it on their own and kind of learn and figure it out and make mistakes and let them do wrong without you jumping in and be like, no, you got to do it. Just let me do it. You don't worry about it. I can do it better, type thing. It seems like a big crossover there. And I'm sure it was hard to go through that.
It was hard not to micromanage.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a pretty detail oriented guy. I'm very particular about trim and because my name's on it and that literally means something to me. I mean, I want you don't owe me a penny until we're done and you're happy. And man, at first it was hard for me to drive off and I would go back and check in the evening and like, whew, it was hard. But when I learned to relinquish that and to kind of change my mindset and to trust the guys that I hired and trust the process. And like you said, let them make a mistake. I mean, I had just 2 days ago, my lead guy, Jay, that's been with me forever. He's phenomenal. He called and he said, hey, we're going to need 2 more 30-foot C-purlins, 10-inch C-purlins. He said, we cut them wrong. And I was like, that's great, man. I appreciate the call. I make a call up there. We get them. Everything's good to go. And before it was like, you can't worry about that little stuff. You've got to be able to roll with the punches and trust those guys to call you when something's wrong. Or, I don't try to show up and micromanage my guys. It seems like once they know what they're doing, the more I'm away, the better it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I give a lot of, I don't want to say power, but a lot of power to Jay, like the guy that runs my crew. If he wants to hire somebody, hire him and tell me about it later. If a guy doesn't fit, get rid of him and tell me about it later and I've got your back. If you decide he's not a good fit, then you do it and just let me know and I'll deal with it. That's my job to deal with that stuff. So one thing I have learned is when you have a crew of guys, one bad guy is like cancer and he can ruin a whole crew of guys. So
I've experienced that just from the employee side. It's like, I would rather work short-handed and work harder than be around the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly. So if, there's times where we've had to nip stuff in the bud and I trust in him to do that. And I think he appreciates that I do that and it gives him ownership. And, this is part of his deal too. Without him, my deal doesn't work. And without me, his deal doesn't work. I mean, it's a very good relationship and we get along great and been doing it for a long time. And I try to take care of my guys as good as I can. Cause I think the better you take care of your people, the better job they'll do and the more they'll want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if somebody dreads going to work, they're not going to put out the product that you want them to put out, that they need to put out. So I think keeping a good workplace and a good group of guys that are cohesive and get along and understand their role and are happy. I think it's super important. super important, because they're an extension of you. Like I always say, I mean, when you have insurance, you have Farm Bureau insurance. Well, you don't know anybody at Farm Bureau. The only person you know is your agent, because that's or when you have a claim, the person that comes out that shakes your hand when something goes wrong, and that person needs to represent who you are and who your business is and what you believe in, because they're the face when you're not there. And so I think things like that are important. But yeah, I've been blessed with a great group of guys, and going back to my stepdad, I didn't mention him enough earlier. He was in construction, and I grew up helping him all through school. So like when I was young, he was framing concrete slabs and framing houses. So my construction background started with him. And to this day, he built custom homes. If I have a question, I have phone a friend instantly. Anytime I call him, anytime I need anything, and he's very knowledgeable and he's very patient, and I won't understand how to do something and he'll explain it. He'll take an hour out of his day and explain it to me. And without that crutch to lean on, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today. I know I wouldn't be, because I didn't know how to do all this stuff. Ron Lane said, "Can you build a barn?" And I said, "No, but I can work and I'll figure it out." And I think what's important with young entrepreneurs and people that are driven, that really want to be successful in life, is not being afraid to try stuff like that, to put yourself out there, figure stuff out, get out of your comfort zone. I mean, get out of your box. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd have never thought that with a teaching degree that I'd be building buildings and have a lumber yard. You never know which way the wind's going to blow the feather. Mm-hmm. So get out of your comfort zone. Somebody challenges you to do something, man, tackle it. Yeah. Tackle it. And you never know what type of growth you'll have with that in life. So I think that's one hurdle that a lot of young business people struggle with, is getting out of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I think the real growth comes when you're outside of it.
Yeah, and there's lots of stories of like highly successful people that just said yes to a job or a contract or something like that, and they had no idea how to fulfill it, and then they're like, okay, now we got to go hustle around and figure out how to do this thing. Yeah. And you can always, that's something I never knew about business, is that like I always just thought for you to own a lumber company, you knew everything about lumber, like you're an expert. But the majority of people is like, no, they hire a manager. You have the people that run it and own it too, but a lot of these are just like, no, you have a owner or an investor, and then you have a manager, and then you have the manager under that, and then you have the employees. Like, you don't have to know every little aspect. You're not good at books, you can hire the bookkeeper out. You're not good at this, you can hire the sales out. All this stuff is like little pieces. You don't have to know everything. And most people don't. If you didn't hear Ben Hale's story on episode 69, you need to check it out. He's been earning trust in the cattle industry one handshake at a time since 1995 at Western Livestock. Western Livestock is proud to be family owned and operated, now with 5 locations: Oklahoma City, Woodward, Comanche, and Waurika, Oklahoma, and also Knoxville, Iowa. They're proud to do business the Western way, with honesty, integrity, and a handshake that still means something. You can join them ringside or stream their sales from wherever you are. Western Livestock, where a handshake is their word, cattle are money, and timing is everything. If you're looking to buy or sell, contact Ben Hale at 940-631-BEEF. That's 940-631-2333. Check them out on Facebook or westernlivestock.com.
But you do have to know how to get out of your own way. Mm-hmm. You do have to know how to hire the right people and get out of your own way. Because a lot of times you can be you can stifle yourself and get in your own way of success.
I think it was Steve Jobs that said the number one job of a founder is recruiting and finding the right people to put in the right places.
100%. And, I never really had anybody in my life that shaped me and gave me that mold and said, hey, this is what you need to do. I think it was just trial and error. I mean, I got in a spot where we had something bigger and I had to have somebody. And then when we had this deal, I had to go pour concrete. So I had to leave a guy, and then I learned to trust him. And then I was like, man, this guy can do this. Like I need to believe in this guy. Mm-hmm. And it was just something that grew over time. It wasn't, and now that I'm a little bit older, you know, I watch stuff and guys like Steve Jobs, and I listen to those short videos. And I see the people that are successful. They were doing this. They were just doing it earlier and way sharper and better at it. Mine, I had to kind of run into the wall 5 times before I learned to open the door.
Yeah. It's cool talking to so many different people, and some people I'm like, so are you learning this or like studying this or have a mentor or anything like that? It's like, no, I just kind of did it and figured it out. So it's like, I heard somebody else say it this way too. Is like, you're going to figure it out, whether you do it the hard way or, you know, just do it yourself by trial and error, or you go and study this. You're going to learn the same lessons in life regardless.
You are. It's kind of like throwing a puppy in the tank. You know, when you get a puppy, throw him in the tank and he's going to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you can't be afraid to step off and jump in the tank. I mean, that's the one advice I would give to young people that are wanting to be successful is just jump. Freaking jump, man. It's so scary, but part of what drove me inside was being scared. I mean, the uncertainty of knowing, and it drove the ambition and the wanting to succeed, and the necessity, I guess, you know, of having to figure something out.
Yeah.
You know, having to put that first building up or the first house, you know. Sometimes you have to lie a little bit. I hate to say it. Like, you know, if the first house you ever built, you're not going to say, well, I've never built a house. And you're say, yeah, you know, I can build a house for you. Yeah. I can build you a home. Yeah. You know, but you've got to be able to, like you said, get the right people and hire the right framers and do the research and do a good job for them because your name's on it. But you can't be afraid to say yes the first time. Yeah. You know, and I think that's super important. And I think it's a skill that a lot of young people lack, is being able to get out of their comfort zone and dive into the deep end. Yeah.
Something I want to touch on that we kind of skipped over, but I think is a big part of your story, is like, we didn't talk much about roping and rodeo, and like that whole talk about that and that whole gap of you doing all these different things and owning businesses and hustling and trying to make a living. Like, how did rodeo and roping fit into that? Was it just like, was that ever an income stream or a job, or was that kind of like when you had money, you went and did it, or was it steady the whole time?
You know, it was a struggle bus for sure. Especially early on, cause I was a little bit behind cause I kind of started later. So I had a huge gap to make up, and I really loved roping calves. And, you know, I got to hang around Bulldog, and I got to go to, you know, caches and ropes and hang out with those guys and rope calves and Bulldog. And, you know, when I learned how to Bulldog, my dad sent me to Steve Duhon and Jimmy Powers at Sonora, and I went every weekend I could when I was in high school to Mr. Powers' house there in Sonora, and Mr. Steve, and, you know, that I would, and we didn't have a ton of money, but like, I was willing to work, and I'd say, hey, I'll feed the horses, I'll go get the steers, I'll do whatever you want me to if you let me come Bulldog with you, or if you let me come rope some calves, like I'll bring some horse feed, some calf feed, or, you know, I'll do, you know, I'll help clean the barn, whatever, saddle your horses, whatever you needed to do. I was willing to do that stuff to get exposed. But I, you know, the rodeo deal, when I finished college and I was hanging around Bubba and another guy named Al Walton, it was an AQHA judge. He was roping steers, and he taught me a ton of, you know, the first colts I ever broke were with him. And to this day, I still talk to him monthly about horses and how they move. And, you know, you never stop learning, whether it's in the equine industry or the construction or anything, roping. And, you know, you'd always think my grandfather made the very first national finals rodeo in 1959 and won the bulldogging at Cheyenne and rodeoed. He's a circuit guy, but he made them 3 or 4 times. And my dad, you know, made them, I don't know, 19 or 20 times and was a world champion. And you would think that, like, I'm just supposed to make them the first year, right? You know, like, so I'm going to be a steer roper. My last name's Davis. So here we go. I'm going to enter this year and I'm going to make the finals. Yeah. My rookie year I entered and I got my butt kicked. And I mean, I realized how bad a horseman I was, you know, how undisciplined I was with what I was doing. And, you know, so I knew that I needed a horse, and not just a horse. I needed something a life changer. You know, you have to have that type of horse to be a top 15 guy. I mean, there's some guys, you know, that can get by. They're so talented. You know, the Scott Snedekers, the Trevor Brazils, If you put them on a medium plus horse, they're still going to make them because they're, the Cole Pattersons, they're so talented. But I knew at my level that I had to have a special horse. So one of those horses that I got when I was working was a horse I called Lunchbox, and he was the hottest little pep. And Bubba helped me with him. I roped calves on him, and I've always believed that those great horses find you. And you never find, you can look at 10 million of them, but I'll tell you what, that great horse is going to find you. And if you're fortunate enough in life, you'll have one, maybe two. And I came across that horse, and I was roping calves on him in 7 and 8 and team roping on him. And I wanted to rope steers. I knew that if I was going to have a chance to make the national finals, my best opportunity was roping steers. I had my dad, the knowledge, that was my best chance. So I focused on it. And I remember my dad loved that horse rope calves on. We rode him at Cheyenne and stuff, and I mounted some guys on him, and he could mortally fly. And I just decided I was going to be a steer roper. So I didn't tell him, but one day I was out, I'd been logging him and driving him, and I tied a steer on him, and my dad pulled in, and he saw me tying that steer, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to start tying steers on this horse. He's a steer horse now." He said, "You just ruined the best calf horse you ever had." And, pretty much called me a dummy. And that was in the fall of 08, and I made the finals on him in 09. He was just that special. And, do
you think was he a better steer horse, or just great in both sides, both events?
He was just a great horse. He scored good. He was the fastest horse I've ever ridden in my life to this day. I mean, I got to ride Becky, that was horse of the year in the bulldogging, that they owned in Coleman. And, I rode Cash's horse, Ranger, and Big Iron of Ropes. And this horse was that fast. I mean, and would match the speed of the steer when you got there. And I'm going to tell you one thing, like, they're either on your team or they're not. And this sucker was on your team. When it came time to win, whether it was in short round at Cheyenne or at Duncan, Oklahoma, where they had $1,000, he was going to be on the money. I mean, he was just always on your team, and he was just a special horse. And he taught me so much about roping and position. And Bub always said, you'll ride 1,000 horses, and you'll learn more from one good horse than you will riding 1,000 turds. And, there's more great horses that made horse trainers than horse trainers that ever made great horses. And I was fortunate enough that horse came along at the right time in my life, that I needed that horse at that time. I was struggling, and I needed that horse. And he changed everything about what I do roping wise, about how I approach it, what I want a horse to do, what I look for in a horse. So it kind of got the monkey off my back. I mean, it came down to, and another thing's the people you rodeo with. I'd always gone with my dad, and we were always just alike, and kind of butt heads. And I was pretty hard headed and thought my way was the only way. And, and I was, I wasn't a very smart kid, but I got in with Neil Wood, and Neil was a team player. And when I got in with Neil that summer, right before the 4th of July, like Pecos, Prescott, Belfouche, Prineville, that week, I got in with Neil, and I think I placed at 19 rodeos in a row. And he would build you up. Nothing was negative. He was on your team. When you rode in the box, he was either pushing your steer, he was right there beside you. And having that horse, and then having the confidence in somebody else believing in you. And man, it just took off. And I rodeoed that year, and it came down to the last rodeo. That's when they had the Heartland deal, the very last rodeo of the year in Waco. Yeah. That was that first year, and it counted. So I came in 16th to the Heartland deal, and I ended up winning a round and second in the average, and got them made that year. And at the last rodeo, and it's just like, you can take a deep breath after that. Mm-hmm. And then, after, not that it's easy to make the finals, but it was easier the next couple of years with a great horse and with the confidence that I had, and that I'd already made them once. It seemed like it was a weight off your shoulders. So I rodeoed there, and I made the finals in 09 and won the average that year. That was that was a pretty tough year. I had a sister that passed away that year, and this goes back to the people that you have in your life and who's surrounding. I had a sister that passed away in September, and I was trying to make the finals. And you know how you remember where you're at when the Twin Towers got hit?
Mm.
And I remember where I was at, and going back to the Edelmans, I was with Don, Ed, and Ronald, and we were at the Boys Ranch, headed to Dalhart. And that's when I got the call. And, I'm glad that I had a support system of people around me right there that could just be there. You don't really have to say anything. You just need somebody that's there. And they helped me get through that and get through the rest of the year. And it was just one of those years like that happened, and it kills you, and it never goes away. It gets a little bit easier, but it never goes away. And to finish the year off like I did that year, and then having all my family at the finals that year, then win the average of the finals, it was just, I don't know. It was special. But that was a tough year. And then after that year, I had some pretty good years the next couple of years. But I was always more focused after that on work, because I didn't want to be a guy that rodeoed and made the finals 15 times or whatever. And then at the end of his career, he's driving a water truck at the AI plant, or, he's working an 8 to 5 job.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad did great, and he transitioned. I saw him transition into real estate, and I just thought, man, I've got more to offer. Like, I want more for my wife. I want more for my kids. Like, I want to build, maybe it might not even be generational wealth, but I wanted to build something that an egg,
Mm-hmm.
So I was more focused on work, and it took away a lot of the practice and a lot of not really the drive. I still wanted to go, and I was hungry, and I wanted to win, but I focused a lot more on the business than I did the roping. So I don't know if that cost me making them a few years, or just not roping good enough, probably is what it was. 90% of it was not roping good enough. But, the years that I've had a good horse, I was healthy. I've had a little bit of success and made them a few more times, but I was always so worried about financial and always worried about working. And I love the young horse part of it too. Like starting the steer horses, I get in trainer mode a lot. I love starting those horses, and I love when I get a horse that's like, I have a horse named Pete that I made the finals on in 22, and he's 19 now, and I hate riding him. I don't even want to saddle him every day because he's so good. Like, he scores great. He runs the perfect spot. He stops every time. There's nothing to work on. And it just it's the most boring thing ever. Like, I can't stand riding him, but I'll have a dink over there or something that's young, that's green, that doesn't know that I need to work on going towards the pin and squaring up and crossing over and rating. And I'll spend all day riding those and just love it. Like, that's part of where I get my joy in roping, is through the young horses and logging them and teaching them to stay on the end of it and to whoa and do all those types of things. But yeah, I spend more time roping with my daughter and riding young horses and tinkering. I always have 3 or 4 young horses, and having guys come by and ride them and seeing where they're at, and
Mm-hmm.
I love having guys like Trenton Johnson or Riley O'Rourke or some of the young kids come by. They'll swing by and, hey, run 2 or 3 on this horse. Just go at him, see what he does. And then I know what I've got to fix.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that part of it. I still enjoy going. I still enjoy being competitive. I just, I love the horse part of it. And I think it's been there since the beginning. I think that's what started the wanting to rope and the passion for roping was the horse part, and it's still there.
Yeah, that's always fun, and that's kind of what we do now. I don't know. I always talk about buying like a finished horse just so I can go rope, but I don't know. We're always tinkering with something now, and I'm going and using them outside, and then trying to take them to the arena, and then they're going back and forth. But it's fun, especially if you get one with a lot of potential.
Oh man, somebody will tell me about a steer horse, somebody will have a nice steer horse or a finished horse and they're like, hey, you ought to go try to buy this horse. And my wife's like, why? She goes, you'll hate everything about him because somebody else did it and you do it a certain way and you're so particular, and he's not going to do this because you do it this way and you're going to spend all this time. And so like, I would give more money for a horse that's never been roped on. I'm just ranched on and,
It's a good broke horse.
Just a good broke horse. I love an empty pallet, an empty canvas where, we can start from the beginning. And I guess I just love the grind more than anything. I love practicing probably more than I love rodeoing. I mean, I love to rope, and I don't, it doesn't even matter what we're doing. I can be roping with my wife or my kids or branding calves or heading on a horse or tying steers down on a young horse. I love tying. I love the practice part of it. And I think if you're going to be successful, if you don't love that part of it, you're probably not going to be successful.
Yeah.
The young kids that I see embrace the grind, and I think it's that way with roping and with work.
Yeah.
I mean,
everything in life, you got to just love doing the thing, not the results that you're going to get from it.
And the things that are hard. A lot of people don't want to do the things that are hard. I had a guy call me wanting to move to Abilene and start a business and wanting to make all this money. You've had these businesses. What I need to do? I said, you need to do things that people hate. Fence builders, trash routes. Those are things that are super successful. I mean, not everybody has to be a banker or a lawyer.
The boring businesses that nobody wants to do.
The stuff nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
They do. I mean, you can't imagine what trash routes, what fence builders, what, the stuff that's hard that people don't want to get up and go do, or they think it's not cool because you have a trash route. But what's cool is having that trash route to me. I mean, that's the part that would drive me, and I think when you're, when you can swallow your pride and embrace the grind. And I think that's part of being successful, is being able to push through all that and loving the part that sucks.
Yeah.
If you don't love the suck, then you're not going to be successful.
Yeah. What do you think, kind of staying on that, what do you think is one skill or trait that somebody needs to work on or develop to be successful? I mean, it's almost what we were talking about, but just narrowing it down to one skill, is it, I would say that would be like persistence, consistency and persistence. Those are words that come up a lot.
Don't be afraid to jump in. Don't be afraid of the water. If I was going to tell a young me, don't be afraid to jump in. I always run at what scares you.
I always tell people too, is like, you took several leaps of faith, throughout your life, and will probably still take some more, but it's something that's always comforting to me after I've done it like once or twice now. If it's something you're doing that you're owning your own business, or you're going to do this or that, like you're in control of it. So you're the only one that decides if it's going to work or not. How much time and effort are you going to put into it? That's going to determine the success. So it's not like you're just blindly jumping. Like you're the one that's going to pull the parachute.
Exactly. And you can't be afraid to fail. Like if I decide to go do start this business, what are they going to do? They're not going to take my birthday away. I can lose everything, and I'm not much further from when I started. With the $500 I had. I mean, I wasn't successful. Okay. What's next? One thing my wife is really great about, and what she's tried to instill in me, is not spending an ounce of time worrying about things you can't control. What people say, what people think. You worry about what you can control, and the more time, if you spend time worrying about that other stuff, it's wasted time. It's outside of your path. So really I would tell somebody to focus on the things they can control. Don't be afraid to jump in the deep end, and embrace the junk.
Yeah.
I mean, embrace the grind, because if you don't love it, you're not, and not everybody's built to be a business owner. I mean, I've had people one of the greatest things, probably the greatest accomplishments business-wise that I'm very proud of. I've had 2 guys that worked for me that started their own business and are successful now. and they're competitors, and they're like, well, that guy's building buildings too. Doesn't that bother you? He's going to be your competition. I said, absolutely not. Man, I want that guy to do great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm so proud of that I was able to teach him a means to feed his family. And I feel a sense of responsibility when I have a guy that works for me. He has a wife and 2 kids. I feel like I'm feeding those 4. It's not just him. I mean, I feel responsible for all of it. And that type of pressure, if you don't thrive under that type of pressure, and if it doesn't drive you and make you get up and make you hustle and make you want to work, then you're not built for this.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple. You're just not built for it. And I think you have to have that mindset to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be able to run into that fire, and to push through it. The guys that I know that are successful, that's from what I've noticed, that's their mindset. They're never afraid to run into it.
Running a ranch today means managing far more than cows. You're balancing multiple enterprises, family partners, land bases, leases, inventory, equipment, and markets that move fast. But if your books and inventories live in the checkbook, spreadsheets, or buried inside of QuickBooks, you're always reacting instead of steering the business. Ambrook gives ranchers real managerial insight, not just bookkeeping. See profitability by enterprise or location, know whether hay is paying for itself, whether stockers outperformed cow-calf this year, or whether that rented pasture is worth keeping. Your balance sheet updates automatically and with ag-specific inventory management. You always know exactly what feed, inputs, and livestock you have on hand and what they're costing you. Tag receipts from the feed store, reconcile from the tractor, and eliminate the year-end scramble. Ranchers save up to 90% of bookkeeping time and finally get numbers they can trust for family meetings, lenders, and major expansion decisions. Ambrook is built for ranching complexity, not just generic small business accounting. Try it free for a month at ambrook.com/wealthy cowboy. That's AMBROOK.com/wealthy cowboy. Yeah, and I read I can't remember the name of it exactly. I read a book a while back. It was like the Warriors playbook, or it was something about the Warriors, and it was a coach, and he talked about, that was the big message that I got from the book was you can control 2 things, your attitude and your effort.
100%.
So if you only worry about those 2 things, like, you're going to be okay. Don't worry about anything else. So that's 2 things to focus on. What about your favorite place to eat?
Oh my gosh. I'm a foodie. So yeah, I didn't get fat by not eating. Favorite place to eat. Gosh, I've got them in different areas too. I mean, how do you not say Joe Allen's?
Yeah.
And eat a ribeye, medium rare, with cabbage, and they have the best peach cobbler you've ever had in your entire life. And then, the Shed right outside of town, phenomenal place to eat. Great owners, great place to eat. Pizza. I mean, Joe's Pizza, they're war refugees that came over and started a pizza joint here. And it's a New York style, crispy flat crust. I mean, there's a lot of cool places in Abilene to eat. Mm-hmm. If you're just talking about Abilene,
yeah.
I mean, there's
just in general. Is that, or you think those stand up to in all your travels?
Oh man, they're pretty good. It's funny when you get up north into the Northwest, you have to go to like a Texas Roadhouse because they don't know what salt and pepper are. I mean, it's like you're eating Slovakian food. It's the most bland thing ever. And I had a roommate named Kevin Haas that was from Hallettsville, and he was Bohemian, and his mom would make those pastries with the fruit in them. Mm-hmm. What are they called?
Like a kolache?
Yeah, kolaches and stuff. And I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I don't really drink or never smoked or any of that stuff, but I have a sweet tooth like crazy. So cakes, pies, cookies, all that type of stuff. I'm kind of all game for. Ice cream and all that stuff. But yeah, Joe Allen's is probably one of my favorites. Yeah. One of my favorites. Gosh dang, that's a great question. I wish you'd have sent that to me in an email before this, because I mean, you have Papados, you have all these great places.
Lots of good spots.
There's a place in Deming, New Mexico. when we're headed out to Prescott, we usually spend the night there at Cruces at the arena, and you ease over to Deming. And behind the Walmart, there's a Mexican food place that has the best huevos rancheros I've ever had in my life. And I enter Prescott probably to go to that place to eat. I mean, it's phenomenal, but it seems like we always have those places, Rodeo, and that you stop. You know, you always go to Mary's or New York Hill, you know, when we're in college. And there's a Deadwood Social Club upstairs on the 3rd floor, private deal steakhouse in Deadwood that's phenomenal. Giovanni's in Pendleton, Oregon. I mean, I think that's what it's called. It's an Italian steak place, and gosh dang, I could go on and on about food places, but yeah, that's that atmosphere and going those places and the relationships you build over the meals. That's
what it is, the atmosphere, the environment, and the people that you're with.
The people, yeah. The part about rodeoing is building those relationships, and I can't remember what I did on my second steer at Pendleton, Oregon in 2013, but I remember going to eat with Trent Sorey and his family up there. And I remember that meal. I mean, those are the things that we take with us, you know, in life. Nobody cares. That's one thing. I've had some injuries the last 2 years. I had a hamstring and pelvic plate surgery, and I've been out for a couple of years, and it's allowed me some time to reflect. And one thing that I've realized is that none of this matters. None of it matters. Nobody's going to know I roped steers in 100 years. I mean, your relationship with God, the time you spend with your family, those are the things that matter. The meals, the bread you break with people. I mean, those are the relationships, the time you spend being present with somebody without your phone.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the things that I cherish in life now at my age. And, you know, when I was younger, it was fast and furious and, you know, how many could we get to, and, you know, living a lifestyle that was crazy, you know, just typical young kid, you know, the world's my, you know, nothing can stop you, you know, when you're 22 years old, but you come to realize what's important in life later on. And yeah, meals with friends and family. That's a beautiful time, man. That's probably what I enjoy most about rodeoing is those times spent.
Yeah. The experiences.
The experience.
How can people find you and do business with you? Your different businesses, on best place to reach you, social media, website, what's all that stuff? So
I'm old school, just Facebook. We do have, my wife runs an Instagram account, I think. So we're City Lumber in Abilene, Texas, 1310 Walnut Street, downtown Abilene. Come check us out. If you love old school lumber yards with the 1940 Coke machine and the hardwoods and the old slide out, you know, bays, that's us. We're personal, we're hands-on. We're in downtown Abilene. Davis Steel Builders is a construction company. We do a little bit of everything: metal roofing, metal buildings, horse barns, some concrete work, kind of a general contracting, some barn dominiums. We're right here in Abilene, Texas too. I have a Davis Steel Builders Facebook page that you can look. It's linked to my personal page. But yeah, that's how you find us.
Yeah. And y'all travel a little bit for that, huh?
We do. I went to mostly for friends. Yeah. But we built an indoor arena in Comfort for the Kendall County Youth Equestrian Center, and Clint Singleton bought a place down there, and I went and built a horse barn for him a few years ago. And J. Paul Williams, that gave me that first horse to ride, I drove last year to Ponca City, Oklahoma, and put a 40x75 tractor shed up for him. And yeah, and the guys like it. Like, we're fixing to build an indoor arena in San Angelo, and they enjoy every once in a while getting to go somewhere else and see something, because a lot of those guys never got to travel like I did. You know, they didn't have a worldly parents that traveled and rodeoed and were gypsies, you know. Yeah. So it's kind of neat for them to go see places. You know, they'd never been to northeastern Oklahoma in the Osage and seen all that stuff. So it was kind of neat, different country, and I think they really enjoy that stuff too. But yeah, we travel a little bit. I tried it. The older I've gotten, with the kids being more active with, you know, baseball and basketball and junior rodeo, I try to stay more local. But yeah, we do travel a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, well, y'all go check him out. Reach out to him on Facebook. Come see him in Abilene. Do business with him. I hope y'all got something out of it, and you'll share it out. And we will see y'all next time.
Thanks for having me.
Real quick, if you're a listener of this show and you're serious about leveling up your income, your mindset, and your life in 2026, you need to join the Wealthy Cowboy VIP community. It's where the real action happens. You'll get exclusive discounts from our sponsors, VIP merch deals, early access to episodes, private Q&As, and I even pull questions from the group to ask our guests on the show. It's a crew of driven Western people pushing each other to grow. The link is in the description. Go join now and see what's happening inside.